All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh Bashim, Yahushai Bashim, Hawakakwadash. I want to give double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone who will teach well, and I want to say shalom to the hopeful elect. All right, the inspiration for this lesson comes from me reading in the book of Philippians, the first chapter. And my gatherings and what the Lord allowed me to understand is that the Apostle Paul, he was put in jail for preaching and teaching Yahweh Shema Shai. All right, and while he was in prison, all right, he wrote to the Philippians. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the point of his letter to them were to continue, to come together and be of one mind. Okay, all right, and to be strong in the Lord and preach the gospel. All right, to be on one accord with one another. All right, set aside their differences. Okay, and preach the gospel. But while he was in prison, all right, his imprisonment was used to further the gospel. Okay, all right, and what I mean by that is what I mean by that, when he was placed into prison, all right, in the book of Acts, he converted. Well, the Lord through the Spirit, he was able to convert the jailer that held him and other prisoners bondage. Okay, all right, but the gospel was furthered through the imprisonment of Paul. All right, just like it was through the imprisonment of Peter. All right, just like it may be in this time for you, so-called Negro Latinos and Native American Indians that are preaching His word. All right, you may be placed in prison for preaching His word, but there's a chance that you may be able to convert somebody or save somebody while you're in prison, or the acts of what it is that happened to you while you're in prison may be spread abroad, okay, and convert people to believing, all right, because that's what happened, all right, and that's what happened in the book of Acts, right? People heard what happened and they believed, okay, all right, just as the jailer, all right, that was in the book of Acts, all right. So this one to start off with, this is Revelations. In chapter 2 and verse 10. Because no, wait, is it 10? So like I'm in 3. This is Revelation 2 and 10. Fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil, all right, which is Esau Edom, all right, shall cast some of you into prison, that ye may be tried, and ye shall have tribulation 10 days. Be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life. All right, so my whole point in reading that is that brothers are going to be thrown in prison. All right, brothers are going to be thrown behind bars because of preaching this gospel. All right. The scriptures say a servant is not better than his master. Was not Yahushua persecuted for preaching the truth? All right. For telling the people who he was and what it is that he was able to do and what he was doing. All right. And same thing with the apostles, man. All right. They were thrown in jail, persecuted, put to death eventually. All right. We may have to suffer the same fate. But if we have to suffer that same fate mentally and spiritually, all right, we will be strong in the Lord because the Lord is the deliverer. But also the whole point is what it is that we will be going through, all right, is at the end of the day to further the gospel, all right. So when we get thrown in prison, don't be afraid. All right. So Paul, in the book of Philippians, he was in prison, all right, and point to back that up. This is Philippians 1-7. Even as it is meet for me to think this of you all, because I have you in my heart, in as much as both in my bonds, all right, in chains, and in the defense and confirmation of the gospel, ye are all partakers of my grace. All right. For Yahweh is my record, how greatly I long after you all in the bowels of Yahweh Shai Mashiach. And after this I pray that your love may abound, yet more and more in knowledge and in all judgment, that ye may approve things that are excellent, that ye may be sincere and without offense till the day of Mashiach. And we are striving to be sincere and without offense until the day of the Lord. Okay. All right. Yes, we slip up. Yes, we do things that uh, cause us to cause us to fall, but we repent. All right. Um, being filled with the fruits of righteousness, which are by Yahushua Mashiach, unto the glory and praise of the Most High. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it at? I'm gonna read down here in my footnotes. All right, this is in my footnotes, and verse 10. This is from my footnotes in 1 and 10. It says things that are excellent means things that really matter. This refers to important issues. As the Philippians' love increases in knowledge and discernment, they will be able to accurately distinguish the vital and worthwhile things in life from those that are not. And while we walk in this truth, we are able to discern what's worthwhile and what's not, man, because we have the Holy Spirit guiding us, all right, just like they did. Contextually, the reader's love for Paul vexes them as they are anxious over his imprisonment. He wants them to perceive his imprisonment as being among those things that really matter because of the good that Yahweh will bring out of it. All right. So being in imprisonment, all right, is important because the Lord can bring good things out of you being in prison, all right, to further the gospel. All right. Let me see. All right, this is for the bottom of Cliff Notes of 1 and 12. Let me read Philippians 1 and 12. Ye should understand, brethren, that the things which happened unto me have fallen out rather unto the furtherance of the gospel. All right, and what happened to Paul in the 16th chapter of Acts? He was out there preaching the word. There was a woman, all right, that was following behind them, saying, just roughly paraphrasing, that these men bring forth the kingdom, right? And Paul was grieved, and he basically, in the name of Yahweh Shemel Shai, rebuked her, right? And the spirit went up off of her, and then the magistrates they gathered up Paul and his I can't remember who was with him, but we're gonna read it. And they beat him and they threw him in jail. All right, and that was all for preaching the word, man. Okay, all right. So this is in my footnotes. In Philippians 1 and 12, it says, things have fallen out means have occurred. Paul tells the readers that his imprisonment has occurred for the purpose of furthering or spreading the gospel. All right. So let's say you get put in a concentration camp, all right? Or you get put in, I don't know, it's a prison, Rikers Island, all right? I don't know if it's still running or whatever, right? But there may be something that happens unto you, all right, while you're in there praising the Lord or singing songs unto the Lord, all right? Like in the instance with Paul, all right, he was singing and praising to the Lord, and an earthquake happened. And an earthquake happened, and the gates of the jail opened, and the jailer was about to kill himself, but Paul told him no. And then the jailer went in there and spoke unto Paul and told him that, hey, you know, what must I do to be saved? And they told him, believe on Yahushua. So there may be an instance in what happens to you. You may get thrown into jail. A certain situation may arise after you praise and give worship unto the Lord. And then people start coming unto you to ask them what they must do, all right, to be saved. And you'll tell them, you'll preach them the gospel like Paul preached the gospel, like Peter taught the gospel. All right, just like all the other apostles taught their portion of the gospel, you're going to teach yours, man. Okay, all right. So your imprisonment may be to further the gospel. The word rather suggests that the Philippians were anticipating the reception of bad news as a result of Paul's captivity. He informs them rather, or to the contrary, in his wisdom and sovereignty, Yahweh has deliberately designed his servants' present circumstance as undesirable as they may be for the gospel's benefit. All right, so the Lord will put us in a situation that doesn't leave us much room for comfort. But at the end of the day, that that situation that you're gonna be put in, again, is to further the gospel, man. Okay, you're here as a servant unto the Lord, man. So as a servant, as a prophet, what you're gonna do? You're gonna preach the word, man. All right. So again, I'm gonna keep reiterating it. Your imprisonment may be used to further the gospel, man. Okay. Uh, Let me see. Two positive results of Paul's imprisonment are given in verses 13 and 14. So let's read them. All right, so this is Philippians 1 and 13. So that my bonds in Hamashiach are manifest in all the palace and in all other places. And many of the brethren in Yahushua, waxing confident by my bonds, are much more bold to speak the word of Yahweh, of the word which is Yahushua, without fear. All right, so let's go down to back to the footnotes. It says, I'm going to read it. Two positive results of Paul's imprisonment are given in verses 13 and 14. One, Caesar's palace learned the gospel from him. All right. So those individuals that was roaming around Caesar's palace, they learned the gospel from Paul. And many Roman, it says, Christians were stirred to preach the gospel during his bondage. All right. I'm going to read this down here too. It says the verse is better translated so that my imprisonment, this is verse 13, says so that my imprisonment has been recognized as being because of my commitment to Hamashiach and in all the palace and in all other places. So our commitment to the Lord may get us placed in prison. But guess what? Let's not worry about that, all right? Because the scripture saying Luke 18, man, always to pray, not to faint. All right. But let's go to Luke 21. This is Luke 21 and 12. But before all these, they shall lay their hands on you and persecute you, delivering you up to the synagogues and into prisons, being brought before kings and rulers for my name's sake. And it shall turn to you for a testimony. Settle it therefore in your hearts, not to meditate before what ye shall answer. For I will give you a mouth and wisdom, which all your adversaries shall not be able to gainsay nor resist. So we were ever to get put in a situation where we're persecuted for righteousness, for preaching Yahweh Shema Shai. Don't worry, all right? Because the Lord's going to give us an answer to say to these people, man, all right? So us being committed to Yahweh Shema Shai, all right? In this modern day time, they will label us as domestic terrorists, okay? All right? And all we doing is standing on the corner preaching down Babylon, all right? Preaching down America, telling America is going to be destroyed by thermonuclear fire, which is the anger of Yahweh Shema Shai, right? Then it speaks on if people are preaching in contention or in truth, it's still going to further the gospel. All right. Then he went on to speak about if he lived or died, and if he died, it'd be better for him, but it would be better for us to have Paul here still. All right, because he was still doing his job as furthering the gospel, which it is that you're going to do. All right, you're going to further the gospel for the Lord until it's your time to go. All right. But let's get some examples in the scriptures besides Acts the 16th chapter, where brothers, all right, were doing the right thing by the Lord, and at the end point of it, the glory was given unto the Lord. All right. So let's go to Daniel. We know about Daniel and the lions. Then let's go there. We can read in Genesis about Joseph. All right. We can read in Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, which we're going to do. All right. And I'm going to just hit the points on this. All right. It says the deliverance from the fiery furnace. All right. So we understand that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego didn't bow down into the image of King Nebuchadnezzar. All right. and King Nebuchadnezzar's servants went and told the king about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. All right, and and I'm gonna start at verse 14. This is Daniel 3 and 14. I'm gonna start at 13. Then Nebuchadnezzar, in his rage and fury, commanded to bring Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They then they brought these men before the king. Nebuchadnezzar spake and said unto them, Is it true, O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? Do not ye serve my gods, nor worship the golden image which I have set up? It says, Now if you be ready, that at what time you hear the sound of the cornet, the flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, and dulcimer, and all the kinds of music, ye fall down and worship the image which I have made. Which I have made well, but if ye worship not, ye should be cast the same hour into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. And who is that power that shall deliver you out of my hands? All right. So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we are not careful to answer thee in this matter. Remember, we read in Luke, remember, we read in the book of Luke where the Lord's going to give you an answer to speak. All right. If it be so, our power whom we serve is able to deliver us out of the burning fiery furnace, and will deliver us out of thine hand, O king. But if not, be it known unto thee, O king, we will not serve thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. All right, then it goes into how Nebuchadnezzar threw him into the fire. All right, and he sees Nebuchadnezzar sees Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. All right, and I'm gonna just read it. This is I'm skipping down to Daniel 3 and 25. He answered and said, Lo, I see 4 men loose walking in the midst of the fire, and they have no hurt. And the form of the fourth is like the Son of the Most High. And then Nebuchadnezzar came near to touch the mouth of the burning fiery furnace and spake. Came near to the mouth of the burning fiery furnace and spake and said, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, ye servants of the Most High power, come forth and come hither. Then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came forth out of the midst of the fire, and the princes, governors, and captains, and kings, counselors, being gathered together, saw these men upon whose bodies the fire had no power, nor was a hair of their head singed, neither were their coats changed, nor the smell of fire had passed on them. All right, this is the point. This is where their bold act furthered the glorification, or gave the glory unto Yahweh Shem Al Shah. All right. It says, Then Nebuchadnezzar spake and said, Blessed be the power of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who have sent his angel and delivered his servants that trusted in him, and have changed the king's words, and have changed the king's word, and yielded their bodies, that they may not serve nor worship any god except their own power. All right, then decrees were made. Okay, then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego was put in certain places within the government. All right, and then right there you see that the Lord was glorified by men standing strong for him. All right, that's what's going to happen for you to further the gospel. Man. All right, the furtherance of the gospel may come by you being a sacrifice. The furtherance of the gospel may come by you being thrown in prison. All right, let's go to Acts and get the account of Paul and the jailer, and then we could trying to see what else we can read. We can read about Peter's imprisonment. No, let's go there. Let's go read about Peter's imprisonment. All right, this is Acts chapter 12, verse 1. Now about the time Herod the king stretched forth his hand to vex certain of the church, and he killed James, the brother of John, with the sword. And because he saw it pleased the Jews, the evil, people of our nation, all right, he proceeded further to take Peter. Then were the days of unleavened bread, and when he had apprehended him, Salakia, he put him in prison and delivered him to four quatern. He delivered him to 4 soldiers to keep him. I can't say that Q word, Salakia. And tending after Easter, which is the Pesach, all right, to bring him forth to the people. Peter therefore was kept in prison, but prayer was made without ceasing of the church unto Yahweh for him. All right. So brothers gonna be praying for brothers, all right. Your family probably gonna be praying for you, all right. Depending on, the situation that your family's in, if they, believe in what it is that we pushing, through the spirit and prayer of our Shema Shai. And when Herod would have brought him forth that same night, Peter was sleeping between 2 soldiers, bound with 2 chains, and the keepers before the door kept in prison. And behold, the angel of Yahweh Shema Shai came upon him, and a light shined in the prison, and he smote Peter on the side and raised him up, saying, Arise up quickly. And his chains fell off his hands. And the angel said unto him, Gird thyself and bind thy sandals. And he did so. And he saith unto him, Cast thy garment about thee and follow me. And he went out and followed him, and wist not that it was true, which was done by the angel, but thought he saw a vision. And when they were past the first and second ward, they came into the iron gate that leadeth unto the city, which opened to them of his own accord, and they went out and passed through one street, and forthwith the angel departed from him. And when Peter was come to himself, he said, Now I know of a surety that Yahweh Shema Shai hath sent his angel and delivered me out of the hand of Herod and from all the people, and Salakia, and from all the expectation of the people of the Jews. And when he had considered the thing, he came to the house of Mary, the mother of John, whose surname was Mark, where many were gathered together praying. And Peter knocked on the door of the gate, and a damsel came to hearken, named Rhoda. And when she knew Peter's voice, she opened not the gate for gladness, but ran in and told how Peter stood before the gate. And they said unto her, Thou art mad. But she constantly affirmed that it was even so. Then said they, it is an angel. But Peter continued knocking. When they had opened the door and saw him, they were astonished. All right, so they saw that their prayers were answered, man. All right, they was praying for Peter, all right, to get up out of jail. And it worked, all right. So brothers gonna be praying for brothers. It said that the church prayed, all right. All right, going back to verse 5. All right, it says, But the prayer was made without ceasing of the church unto the Most High for him. So brothers are gonna be praying constantly, all right, for brothers and for themselves to get out of certain situations. And the Lord is gonna do it on his own accord, in his own way, all right, to further the gospel. But he beckoning unto them with the hand to hold their peace, declare unto them how Yahweh Shema Shai had brought him out of the prison. And he said, Go show these things unto James and to the brethren. And he departed and went into another place. All right, so as I'm sure, as with the no doubt in my mind, because you know how Jake likes to talk. Jake will say something to one person and Jake likes to spread, good or bad news. In this case, it's good news. Peter was released out of prison. And what happened prior to Peter being released out of prison? All right, Peter was locked up. The church was praying for him, and Peter was left, and Peter was freed. Okay, all right. Same thing that was going to happen to you. It's pushed. It happened to further the gospel. All right. Now let's go to Acts 16, where Peter was in prison, All right, I'm gonna start at Acts 16 and 17. I'm gonna start at 16. And it came to pass as we went to prayer, a certain damsel possessed with the spirit of divination met us, which brought her masters much gain by soothsaying. All right, and that's something we got to stay away from. All right, within the law, you can't be dealing with that. All right. That's that fortune telling nonsense. Okay. It says the same follow Paul and us and Christ, saying these men are the servants of Slakia of the Most High Power, which show unto us the way of salvation. And the way of salvation is through Yahushua. And this and this and this did she many days, but Paul being grieved turned and said to the spirit, I command thee in the name of Yahushua Mashiach to come out of her, and he came out of her, and he came out the same hour. And when her master saw that the hope of their gains was gone, all right, so the hope of their gains was whatever money they was possibly going to get, they caught Peter and Silas and drew them into the market place unto the rulers, and brought them to the magistrate, saying, these men being Jews do exceedingly trouble our city. And that's what they're gonna say about us. We're gonna be called terrorists, man. We're gonna be saying we're troubling people, and we're causing this type of ruckus, and we're causing this type of drama. But all we doing at the end of the day is just preaching the word. All right. And verse 21, and teach customs which are not lawful for us to receive, neither to observe, being Romans. And the multitude rose up together against them, and the magistrates rent off their clothes and commanded to beat them. And when they had laid many stripes upon them, they cast them into prison, charging the jailer to keep them safely. Who having received such a charge, thrust them into inner prison and made their feet fast to the stocks. All right. So again, for preaching the word, all right, you may be in prison, man. Okay, you may be thrown behind the bars, man. All right, and at the end of the day, don't worry. Okay, don't worry. All right. At midnight, Paul and Silas prayed and sang praises unto Yahweh, and the prisoners heard them. All right, this is the action that they did. They prayed unto the Lord, and they sang praises unto him. All right, because what I think is in the Acts the 5th chapter, where they was beat unto the Lord, and they found themselves worthy. This Acts, it's in Acts the 5th chapter, where they found themselves worthy to be beat for the name of Yahushua. All right. So this is taken into that same account where they were giving praise unto the Lord because they were able to suffer for his name's sake. So it's easier said than done right now, right? But the Lord's gonna put the spirit on us to suffer for his name's sake, all right? That's what I believe. All right. So verse 26, and suddenly there was a great earthquake. They were praising the Lord, right? And guess what? Their praises brought forth the great earthquake from the Lord, right? So the foundations of the prison were shaken, and immediately all the doors were open, and everyone's bands were loosed. And the keeper of the prison, awakened out of his sleep, and seeing the prison doors open, he drew out his sword and would have killed himself, supposing that the prisoners had fled. But Paul cried with a loud voice, saying, do thyself no harm, for we are all here. Then he called for a light and sprang in, and came trembling and fell down before Paul and Silas, and brought them out and said, sirs, what must I do to be saved? And they said, believe on the Lord, Yahushua HaMashiach, and thou and thy house shall be saved. All right. And then it goes into how his house is going to be saved. All right. And it also goes into them Paul, not wanting to be released because the people put a Roman in jail. They beat a Roman, all right, and put him in jail, which is against their customs, all right. So they hurried and got them out of town, all right. After that, all right, I'm gonna read these footnotes that's down here. This is 16 and 25. The footnotes in the Bible. It says verse 25 is the key to the prison episode, since the earthquake was not intended to deliver Paul, but to convert the jailer. All right, and that's what happened. A great situation happened to to convert somebody unto Yahweh Shema Shai, right? So again, you being thrown in prison can be used to further the gospel, man. All right. Yahweh knew that Paul would be released the next day, all right, because again, the Lord is in control of all things, right? Therefore, the earthquake was not merely for Paul and Silas's benefit. The earthquake would have been meaningless had not the jailer and prisoners heard Paul's testimony in prayer and song. Their singing brought about the divine intervention in the earthquake, and all would understand its significance. Hence, the jailer would run to Paul asking how he could be saved. You know, it says Yahweh's purpose of Peter's deliverance of chapter 12 and Paul's of chapter 16 are apparent. The purpose of Peter's imprisonment was his execution. For Paul, the intention was only to threaten him. All right, so the imprisonment was for a certain reason. All right. So because Herod wanted to kill Peter, all right, and the magistrates of the Romans of that time that were living in that town, all right, they only threatened Peter and Silas, all right. Surprisingly, Peter sleep, whereas surprisingly, Peter sleeps, whereas Paul prays and sings. Neither is controlled by his circumstances, all right. And in Peter's case, the Most High puts the guards to sleep and delivers Peter by means of a silent angel. The guards are executed. In Paul's case, the Most High awakes the sleeping jailer with an earthquake. The jailer is saved. Paul chooses to remain in jail. All right. So the point of imprisonment, all right, can and should be looked at as furthering the gospel, man. All right. There's going to be situations where we're gonna have to go through things in prison, all right, for the name of the Lord. All right. They just didn't have an easy, stay in prison, I'm sure. But what it showed forth is that they were placed in that situation to further the gospel of Yahweh Shema Shai. All right. Daniel on the lines then. All right. Where's my apocrypha? Because we know Daniel, he had Bell and the Dragon. All right. Daniel had issues with kings and rulers. All right, but the Lord delivered him out of all of it. All right, and they threw Daniel in the lion's den, and at the end they gave glory unto the Heavenly Father. All right. I'm gonna just get straight to the point. This is Bell and the Dragon. All right. All right, and the story behind that is, I ain't read it in a while, but all right, so they were setting up food and in a certain place in their kingdom, and they made it seem like the idol was eating, but people came through and ate the food secretly. All right. So what happened to Daniel? Daniel was thrown into the lion's den. All right. Um, all right. So this is history of Bel and the dragon, and I'm gonna start at 29. So they came to the king and said, "Deliver us, Daniel, or else we will destroy thee and thine house." Now, when the king saw they pressed him sore, being constrained, he delivered Daniel unto them. All right. This was a test for Daniel. All right. Who cast him into the lion's den, where he was 6 days. And in the den there were 7 lions, and they had given them every 2 days carcasses and 2 sheep, which then were not given to them, to the intent that they might devour Daniel. All right. Now there was in Jewry a prophet called Habakkuk, who made pottage and had broken bread in a bowl and was going into the field for to bring it to the reapers. But the angel of Yahweh said unto Habakkuk, Go and carry the dinner that thou hast made, that thou hast into Babylon unto Daniel, who was in the lion's den. And Habakkuk said, Lord, I never saw Babylon, neither do I know where the den is. Then the angel of the Lord Yahweh took him by the crown and bare him by the hair of his head, and through the vehemency of his spirit set him in Babylon over the den. And Habakkuk cried, saying, O Daniel, Daniel, take this dinner which Yahweh have sent to thee. And Daniel said, Thou hast remembered me, O Most High, neither hast thou forsaken them that seek thee and love thee. All right, so it's important to seek the Lord, man. All right, and I believe it was in 2 Chronicles, the 15th chapter. It says, if you don't seek the Lord, you'll be put to death. Verse 39, so Daniel arose and did eat, and then the angel of the Lord set Habakkuk in his own place again immediately. Upon the 7th day, the king went to bewail Daniel, and when he came to the den, he looked in, and behold, Daniel was sitting. Then cried the king, and with a loud voice, saying, Great art thou, O Yahweh, power of Daniel. There is none other beside thee. And he drew him out and cast those that were the cause of his destruction into the den, and they were devoured in a moment before his face. All right. So again, that situation, all right, was after Daniel was put in there and the king came back. That situation was set up to give glory to the Lord, man. All right, Daniel was used in the heat of the moment to give glory to the Lord. All right, so you're going to be used, all right, to further the gospel. You're going to be used to further the gospel. You're going to be used to further the name of Yahweh Shema Shai, man. All right, you're going to be out there preaching and praising Yahweh Shema Shai, where you may be in certain situations and you may get grabbed up, or you may be out and about and you may get grabbed up. You may get thrown into prison. You may preach while you're in prison. You may give praise unto the Lord while you're in prison, or something may happen to you while you're in prison, and then that one cause will lead to an effect of something else, man. Okay, and at the end of the day, it's all to the furtherance of the gospel and the glorification of Yahweh Shema Shai. That's it, man. That's why we're here. We are servants of the Lord, man. We other purposes in life. There's none, man. Okay, because at the end of the day, you should want to be saved. So Lord William was edified. Don't be afraid to get thrown in prison, all right? Because our forefathers, they weren't afraid to suffer for the name of Yahweh Shema Shai, and neither are we. So Lord William was edified. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Shema Shai, by Shema Rakakadash. I'm going to give double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone who will teach you all. And I'm going to say shalom to the hopeful elect. Kwame Yasharal and Mawafa Bar Shalom.